Hi, I'm Kina and this is Faith in Business, Conversation with Christian Entrepreneurs. In just a few moments, I'll be talking to the chairman of Lawson's Timber Building and Fencing Supplies, a family business that was founded in 1921. Simon, you are the chairman of a company that was founded in 1921. Could you tell us a bit about this company?
Yes, so the company was formed in 1921 by my father's mother, and she developed the business through the 30s and 40s and then handed it to my father, I think in about 1946 or 47. And he took the business on and developed it into a timber and builders merchants, which it eventually became in the 1980s. In the 90s, we decided to grow the business, and that's in fact when I joined. And I had previously been in a corporate environment and wanted to explore A, my faith, and B, where values and family businesses could really come together.
What difference does your faith make the way you run your business?
Well, for me, the business experience I had in the corporate world was really focused on performances and KPIs and outcomes and profit, which in itself has a role, but it was pretty much, that was the whole picture. I think people very much lived in fear. There was no sense of longevity, and people were numbers. And intrinsically, I just felt that was wrong. And I think the greatest thing we can do in our journey in this world is to show love and compassion for people. And the great challenge for me was, how do we translate that into the workplace? So that became almost a galvanizing period for me, where actually all the stuff that the corporates were talking about has a role, but they were missing a huge chunk of the spirit of business, the soul of business. So yes, so faith for me and my Quaker roots all came together with how do we demonstrate love for people, and how do we make them feel part of something that in this world I think is increasingly volatile, short-term contracts, gig economy, whichever frame you want to use, and the uncertainty that gives people. And I really wanted to provide something that had stability.
Could you tell us an example how your faith is acted in practice in your company?
Well, I think the most important thing is love in work, and I think from a work context you probably call that compassion. And one of the things I love doing, I've been blessed with the gift of cooking, or so people tell me, and I like to cook for my staff. And I think one of the great things that has come out of that process is people feel they can talk to me about what are their true values.
Fantastic.
And I think through faith, if you humble yourself, which I think is a very important part of leadership, and listen to people's needs, you become much more sensitive to the workforce and what their needs are. And for me, the faith journey in that context has been really important. And I think humility, the servant leadership type of model where you can look after people, and I expressed it through the gift of cooking, and was able to engage with the people that work for me. And people go through all sorts of problems in their lives, and I think the more they open up, the more they talk about it, the more we can help. So for me, faith had a big part in that, and it's an ongoing journey, really.
Great. When you talk about cooking for your staff, how do you do it? Do you cook a meal, bring it to work? What do you do?
Yeah, so I invite them round to my house. It's 4 quarterly events a year, and it's a completely open discussion. There's no agenda. It's not compulsory, and people can come and turn up with a list of what they think is important or not. I have no agenda, and it's about really looking after them. So I don't invite any managers or directors. Just in context, we have about 450 staff, and I've probably been doing this for about 6 or 7 years, and must have cooked probably 300 to 400 people. Some come back regularly, some don't. So the important thing for me is I cook. I don't have any outside caterers, so for me it's very much serving them. And I would say after about the first year, when the initial, what do we say, and all that background chatter became more relaxed, they started to tell me their true feelings. And the very simple one was, we get lots of gifts into head office, and what we do is we raffle them all out for the staff, and we might have a comedy night, we might have a theatre night, so we will give all the workforce an option to buy it. And we thought that was great. And we used to have 40, 50 people apply to that to get those tickets. So we've been doing that for about 3 or 4 years. And at the last values lunch, one of the chaps said, well, actually, all the staff really love boxing. Not something I'm into, but I understand that there's this guy, Anthony Joshua, and I understand there's a boxing championships and all that sort of stuff. So we said, fine. I said, I'll get the tickets. So I got them 2 tickets to the Anthony Joshua fight that was about 3 months ago in Cardiff.
Wow.
And we put it in the raffle. And 300 people applied for it. So from simply listening to our staff's, you could say their needs or their things that make them happy, we had a 6-fold increase in people wanting to do or go to a sport event, and that came out of the values lunch. The chap felt relaxed enough to say, look, this is what our staff, all the staff really love. So we did it, and we had 300 people turn up, and our PA said, this is amazing, we've never seen so many applications.
In the book A Voice to Be Heard, you said what defines you as a Christian entrepreneur is acknowledging that all your success is a result of God. Could you explain what you mean when you say your success is due to God?
I think one of the great dangers in business, and I think in any success that you may be blessed to be part of, is that you put it down to it's all about me and how great I am. And I think you can look at examples in Hollywood recently, or a lot of big corporate packages that seem to go around, where pride and the entitlement becomes very much about the person rather than about the greater context. And I think one of the great things I found being a Christian is I just give it all to God. I'm only here by the grace of Him. I only can see the things I can see by the grace of Him, and I can only do those things by the grace of Him. And I think it's a really good check on the dangers of power, greed, ego, narcissism. And I think all those sorts of things are very much prevalent in the world now as social media, as money becomes more divisive. That process for me acknowledging Christ in my journey, it's a great relief, because I don't feel that need through the Spirit to grasp after those things. I want to grasp after the compassion that I think people need to feel and look after people.
Could you give us an example of the kind of setback maybe you've had, and what role did your faith play? Because I'm sure there's some people just assume, oh, entrepreneurs all about money, doing things going well. But what are some of the challenges being an entrepreneur, and how do you respond with your faith?
We as entrepreneurs are as prone to failure as anyone else. I think that's really important to acknowledge. We're not apart from anyone else. We don't have a divine right above anyone else. So yes, we've had lots of failings. We've had staff that have behaved properly, in my view. We were bust in '93, so we did a management buyout of the company back from a bad property loan that went wrong when interest rates in '93 were 15%. I think the very important thing about failure is I embrace failure because I think it's the most important learning you can do. And when you suffer, particularly in the context of a Christian walk, you are at your highest learning point. If everything was comfortable and we just went along without any challenges, I don't think we would grow in our character as we need to. So I embrace failure. I encourage our staff to have a go, to do the right thing, and if it doesn't work out, what do we learn from it? So yes, we have lots of failures, but out of failures, such as going bust in '93, we did pay back all our suppliers that we had let down, and we had them all in to talk to them. So there are certain ethical things that we did. We came out of it with our character intact, because we didn't have to do some of the things that we did. And remember, the faith that you have, God will never let you down. So the more the failure pushes you, the more you step into God. So I think there's quite a dynamic there in the spiritual journey. And it can be very challenging. In my own journey, I've been through a divorce. I brought up 4 children of my own, and I found that really tough. But now when I meet people at work who get divorced, have to look after kids on their own, I can empathise with that. And then only last week, my daughter is trying to help one of her friends whose parents are going through a divorce. And I said, the great thing, Rebecca, is that you've been through this. You can now be a blessing and help to others. So we all fail, and it's important we all acknowledge that, but learn from it and use that to help other people.
Simon, it's been great talking to you. Join us next time for another interview.